I chose a speech that I think is important to equip you, if ever in doubt, with my insights from the Arab world. Me, who has lived in Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Cyprus, France, and Germany. And I mention France, Cyprus, and Germany because there are enough Arabs and Muslims there. So the topic I chose today is relevant to everybody in the room. So bear with me. I will read and then we will move on to the more fun part. Before I continue, to those who don't know me, I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese. I grew up, most of my life I spent in Lebanon, in the Bekaa Valley, the stronghold of Hezbollah. I attended a French Catholic school. Religion was irrelevant in my upbringing. The only thing everybody agreed upon is that the Jews were horrible, the Israelis were monsters, etc. And after this long journey of discovering the history of our region and the fact that we've been intensively brainwashed, I would like to share with you the following insights. Bear with me for 10 to 12 minutes. So, the same way a Christian Catholic is told that he or she is born a sinner owing Jesus, the Arab is born a sinner owing the Palestinian. The Catholics owe Jesus for dying on the crucifix for their past and future sins. The Arabs owe the Palestinians for not giving up on Al-Quds. Al-Quds is the Arabic name given to Jerusalem, or Shalim, Yerushalayim, after the Islamic conquest in the 7th century current era. Al-Quds means Kodesh. The alleged Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem stands alongside the Dome of the Rock on a plateau referred to in Arabic as Beit al-Maqdis, which is the literal translation of Beit HaMikdash, the Jewish temple. There is abundant archaeological evidence for the Jewish temple, part of which is the visible Western Wall, and its extension underground, the tunnel tour, is highly recommended. On the other hand, there is no archaeological proof that the mosque standing there is indeed the one referred to in the Quran as Al-Aqsa, or the furthest, from which Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven on a creature called Al-Buraq, according to the Muslim story. In the 9th century, the Caliph Abdul Malik bin Marwan built that tiny mosque in Jerusalem, and the first ever Friday sermon in that mosque was ordered by Caliph Saladin after the Crusades, when he took Jerusalem back from the Christians in the 11th century. It was a political decision meant to assert the Muslim connection with Jerusalem for its geographical location, but also for its religious importance for the Christians and the Jews. The so-called Palestina, the name given to the province by the Romans after the destruction of the Second Temple in year 70 current era, was under Islamic rule since the 7th century. That ended in 1915 with the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the cessation of a 1400 year of Muslim caliphate that was officially abolished in 1924 by Kemal Atatürk in today's Turkey. The caliphate, which terror groups such as Al-Qaeda and Daesh, or ISIS, tried to restore. For Muslims, Al-Quds is the third holiest place, and it must remain under Muslim rule. That is problematic because there is no evidence to support their claim for it being the holy point referred to in the Quran. And how do we reconcile the Muslim and Jewish claims to the site? Evidently, the Jews are connected to Jerusalem, and their connection predates Islam and Christianity. The Jewish temple is said to be a house of worship for all nations. For the Jews must be the light for all humanity. That allows Muslims and Christians to visit the location and pray there. In contrast, the Muslims want an exclusive right for Muslims in Bayt al-Maqdis, dismissing any claims predating Islam to the point of denying the Jewish temple ever existed. The Palestinians are entrusted with safeguarding Al-Quds. Who are the Palestinians we keep talking about? They are the descendants of the Arabs of the British Mandate of Palestine who refused to compromise with the Jews to share or partition the land. Which land? The country we know as Israel. What was this land before 1948? It was the British Mandate of Palestine, a piece of the Ottoman Empire which collapsed during the First World War. The British and the French drew borders in the Levant, what we refer to as the Middle East, and they split the region between them. Their project did not last very long, and the locals soon after declared their independence. The locals were mostly Arabs, but not only, mostly Muslims, but also Christians, Druze, Jews. And they had either nationalist or Islamist agendas, hence the competition between pan-Islamist and pan-Arabist projects in the region until this day. The pan-Islamist project is more inclusive of ethnicities, less so of religions other than Islam. The pan-Arabist project is more inclusive of religions, but less so of ethnicities other than Arabs. In both cases, minorities are persecuted. The single model in the Middle East, where neither pan-Islamism nor pan-Arabism dominate, is Israel. And it works. Yet the Arabs of Palestine continue to fight against the single model that proved successful in the region and think that they, out of all Arabs, will put an Islamist or Arab nationalist project to the test and succeed. Meanwhile, most Arab nations struggle with failing states based on one of these two models, and the few who aren't failing have moved or transcended both to adopt a modern and more inclusive approach, such as UAE, which maintains a Muslim and Arab cultural identity while welcoming diversity and promoting interreligious tolerance and dialogue. While the Abraham Accords transformed the perception of Israel and the Jews in Bahrain, UAE, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia, who I still believe will join officially with God's help, while there is a shift in the mood in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Iran after understanding that the so-called axis of resistance lied to them for decades, using the Palestinian cause as a pretext to drain their economies and sacrifice their future and their children. While the region is transforming, the Palestinians are stuck in the past. They are suffering, and they got used to blaming the Jews and everyone in the world who doesn't support them and subscribe to their cause and their misery. As if they have no agency, as if they played no role in shaping their reality. They won't even accept criticism from their friends, from Arabs and Muslims who are tired of paying the price of the Palestinian cause for the Palestinian choices, especially after October 7th. We cannot tolerate the Palestinian emotional tantrums any longer. We cannot undo history, and we must hold the Arabs of Palestine accountable for their actions. They made their choices, and now their descendants expect us to pay for their mistakes endlessly. The Lebanese realized in the 70s that the Palestinians abused their hospitality and used Lebanese territory to train their militias and wage terror attacks against Israeli civilians. Yasser Arafat was forced to leave Lebanon back then together with his armed fighters, which led to a vicious Lebanese civil war between those who supported the Palestinian cause and those who divorced it. Since 2011, the Syrians began to understand what was done to them, generation after generation, in the name of the Palestinian cause and by its champions. They suffered an Orwellian oppression in the name of liberating the Palestinians. The people of our region are finally protesting the entitlement of the Arabs of Palestine. We owe them nothing. In fact, they owe us. But we want nothing from them except letting us live in peace. We want them to move on like everybody else did and allow their children to live peacefully as they deserve. The Arabs of Palestine want to be liberated, and I think they should go ahead and be liberated. Liberated from the Palestinian cause. Palestine doesn't need to be liberated. It was in 1948 when the British left the mandate of Palestine. But a group in the mandate did not want to share the land with Jewish immigrants or many Jews who were living there for centuries. And they most certainly did not want to live under Jewish rule. They strived for another Palestine. They wanted a different outcome. But 1948 is past gone. Wars have been fought, wars have been lost, wars have been won, a project has emerged, a project has survived and thrived. It is called Israel. A country where everyone is represented, even those who criticize it harshly. Everyone except those who rejected the project and sought night and day to destroy it. Even after October 7th, the Palestinians feel entitled. They make demands and expect our sympathy and understanding. They lost over and over again. And I wonder how many more times should they lose to admit loss? How many more lives should be lost until we draw the line? To pity the Palestinian people is to infantilize them, to treat them like children who lack agency. It also absolves them from responsibility, as if they were incapacitated or too stupid to take responsibility for their actions. I unsubscribed from the pro-Palestine fan club. I don't support their cause, their means, their style, their agenda, their attitude, and their goal. Unlike the case with Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, in Israel, there are many trustworthy partners for a sustainable regional peace. It is time for moderates in the Middle East to liberate the region from the Palestinian cause and to liberate the Arabs of Palestine and their descendants from the burden of an unsupported religious claim which cost hundreds of thousands of lives. Islam can thrive if moderate voices are emancipated, and as long as aggressive Muslim men believe they must force their extreme versions of Islam on others, people will get further and further away from Islam, especially Muslims who suffer the direct consequences of extremism on a daily basis in vast parts of the Muslim world. Islam is part of our human civilization, whether we like it or not, and will continue to be so without the need to convert, subdue, eliminate, or chase the Jews, the Christians, the Yazidis, the Sabaeans, the Hindus, Zoroastrians, the Buddhists, the atheists, we can all exist simultaneously as citizens who have rights and duties, and this can only work if no group wants to eliminate the others. Otherwise, we will always be stuck in a vicious cycle of violence, and we can do better.
Hello.
So that was the boring part. I know you'd like to know more about my personal story, so I'm gonna let you tell me what you want to know. So, you can ask your questions in light of the little you know about me. And at the end, we have a small surprise for you, or I should say a request. So, who'd like to start? Who's moderating? Who's asking? I can see
Please
the
go
hands.
to the
Who's
microphones
deciding?
on the sides of the room if you have a question. There's one on each side of the room.
I feel short with this.
Okay.
All right. So this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to answer very, very, very briefly because there are many questions. And we're going to start with you. And then we do one on the right side. Hey.
Hi. I just wanted to know if there was one thing.
Maybe you tell us your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm from the Brooklyn chapter.
Go ahead.
If you were to say one thing to your younger self who didn't love Israel and who wasn't supporting the Jews and supported Hezbollah, what would you say?
Thank you for the question. Okay. I look older, or I look younger than I am. In fact, we didn't have social media back when I was your age, which means information was censored in Lebanon and Syria. I believed what the state told us because we couldn't know anything else. The Israeli narrative was omitted from our existence. Even YouTube was censored. Can you believe that Wikipedia is banned in today's Turkey, secular Turkey? So I don't know what I would say to my young self, but it was wasted energy, and I couldn't know better. I'm grateful for my background, because without it, I wouldn't have the insights I have today.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maddie from the Brooklyn chapter. I just wanted to ask what the process of making the movie was like and how it just went for you.
Okay, thank you. So the movie, it's a featured documentary on October 7th. When I got the call to come to Israel and narrate it, I said no way because I'm not Israeli. So this is not my place. It shouldn't be my voice. But when I heard the reasoning behind it, I agreed because I was hoping that my contribution would incentivize more Arabs to watch the documentary, even if only to bash me, because once they watch it, they cannot unsee it. So it was, thank you. It was an interesting process. I didn't know what we're doing. You're gonna watch the film later. They took me to locations. We were just having conversations. I had no idea where we're going, but the two rabbis I made the documentary with are very good friends, and I trusted them. So I was very happy to see the end result, and I hope you enjoy it tonight. So.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from Boston. First, I would like to thank you for your very moving and informative speech. My question is, what inspired you to learn more about Israel and what inspired you to like change your mindset in a way?
Okay, so I was in my mid-20s and I moved to France, to Strasbourg in Alsace, to do a 1-year winemaking course because I wanted to open a wine bar in the old city in Damascus. Yes, believe it or not everyone is a Muslim and religious in these countries. And I landed in the Jewish quarter. And I knew that my accommodation was there, but I thought that the Jewish quarter is like the Jewish quarter in Beirut or in Damascus, where there were no Jews, none at all. Fun fact for you, 800,000 Jews left the Arab world, Northern Africa and the Middle East. And I've never seen a Jew until I went to Strasbourg. And the first day I went to the grocery store across the street, 4 religious Jewish men entered, and that caused me my first and last panic attack. I left my stuff, ran out, ran up to my bedroom, locked the door, although nobody was following me, and looking at myself in the mirror woke me up because I felt like a fool. I couldn't breathe, I was sweaty, I was red, and I'm the fearless type, and I had to understand why. In retrospect, after a while I understood, I had a panic attack because it was the first time in my life to share the same space with the Jew, with the enemy. And I had to understand, why is the Jew the enemy? So I started having access to uncensored information in Europe, reading about Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, who unfortunately left us this summer. Yeah, that was great. One of Israel's greatest achievements. I realized that my perception of the Jews and the Israelis was completely through Hassan Nasrallah. So I started with him. And just watching a few videos that I've never seen in the Arab world, I realized that he's telling us his agenda, and we didn't believe him. He's not working for the Lebanese or the Syrians. They do not acknowledge political borders, as the expert, my friend and colleague here, Talia Ziada, would tell you. Islam doesn't acknowledge nation states. And he wanted Lebanon to become part of an Islamic state, not like the one of Daesh, I mean, not better or worse, but he wanted it to become an extension of the Islamic regime in Iran. So I have to take other questions. This was a moment that triggered me to read the history of the region, and I was enraged, outraged for many years because I realized that all the wars were senseless. They could have been avoided if only the Arabs of Palestine accepted to share the land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name's Diana. I'm from the Brooklyn chapter, and I wanted to know, how did your close family and friends react when you started to do research and was publicly supporting Israel?
So, this idea of me being pro-Israel and that it started on October 7th, let me correct that. Not at all true. So I've been working with American organizations and Israeli organizations for many years, but it was soft diplomacy, and we became more active after the historic signing of the Abraham Accords. But what we did lacked pace. It was so slow. And so something happened in 2011 when I lived in Strasbourg, and it changed me. But I became vocal. I became an activist or an influencer on social media after October 7th. Before that, thank you. Before that, I tried to speak to Arabs to explain to them, guys, you're brainwashed. Don't you understand? Especially after 2011, especially after seeing what the so-called axis of resistance did to the Syrian people, the fact that Hezbollah, the cool Hassan Nasrallah, sent his guys to kill Syrians, to support a dictator. You see what's happening, the Iranian regime killing teenagers your age, just because they wanted to feel air in their hair. To enforce the hijab, they killed their own people. I tried, but people didn't want to listen. because it was a soft approach. After October 7th, I switched to fighter mode. And then all my friends and family members blocked me. They didn't even ask why I publicly supported Israel. But you shouldn't feel sorry for me because I lost a few friends and family members, but I made better ones, many, many, many more since October 7th. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Annie Benchashan, and I'm from the LA chapter. I wanted to ask, what is the most outrageous or crazy thing that you learned when you were a kid about the Jews that you later learned was completely untrue?
Look, I did not grow in Ramallah. So it was an intelligent, middle-class, secular, liberal, educated society. So no, we didn't believe that the Jews had tails. Many did, but not in my surrounding. But I think the most outrageous point that's very common in the Arab world is the following, and you've heard it many, many times since October 7th. In 1996, I was a child and I was watching on the news horrific images, and we weren't used to that back then. We had very few TV channels showing the bodies of women and children. It was a UN shelter, and they reported the Israelis bombed them deliberately. It was in Qana, if you remember that. And I remember weeping. It was so difficult to watch this. But it was the common understanding among everyone, typical, the Jews. This is what the Israelis do, again and again and again. And until now, although we have social media, people still believe that the Israelis, like the IDF, wake up and like, what are we going to do today? Let's go kill some Palestinian kids. They truly think that. In Nazi Germany, the Nazis wanted to convince the entire world that every Jew is a monster. Even the babies deserve to die. Today, the world and the Arab world, which took the baton, or the baton was passed from Nazi Germany to the Arab world. You will see later Haj Amin Husseini when he visited Hitler in Berlin. Today, especially in the Arab world, everyone wants every Jew to be an angel. So you're either a monster or you're expected to behave like an angel. And I have to remind people, when they show me a picture of an IDF soldier breaking the arm of a Palestinian, look, do you condone that? Do you like that? Look. No, I don't. The Israelis are like every other people. They have a prison. Guess why? It's not only for the Palestinians. They have some psychopaths. They are normal people, neither monsters nor angels. So I think this is the most outrageous. Telling the Jews their own story. I will tell you what you are as an Israeli, and I don't allow you to even speak for yourself, and that is very easy in the Arab world because we have anti-normalization laws and policies, and they are embedded in many constitutions and basic laws in many Arab countries. So I'm going to tell you something that you will remember. Iraq's beauty queen, Miss Iraq, Sarah Edan, who lives now in LA, had to flee Iraq. Many years ago, she took a selfie with the Miss Israel. And then she received death threats, her parents as well. Anyway, she had to leave Israel. The interesting part is that Sarah Edan is the only Iraqi whose nationality was revoked, unlike Iraqis who joined ISIS. Anti-normalization laws are serious. So not allowing you to tell your own story or version of events and imagine that you're a monster or you're expected to be an angel, I think is the worst part of the propaganda machine against the Israelis. Go ahead.
I'm Dan. I'm from the Bay Area. I'm Dan, and I'm from the Bay Area. And my question to you is, you present both were saying that the Arab world is shifting in a positive way, that they're beginning to understand that they've been played. But on the other hand, we see, and I've seen personally in the wake of October 7th, the inverse, where Western countries, if anything, are getting tired of affiliating with Israel, and Arab countries seem stronger in their resolve to be against normalization with Israel, so much so that even the Abraham Accords were tested in such a way that the Saudi Arabian Mohammed bin Salman said that he does not desire normalization anymore with a defense pact unless there's a clear-cut path to a Palestinian state. So my question is basically,
I think I got it. And to your last point, thank you for the question. Mohammed bin Salman is bluffing. He's still joining the Abraham Accords. And before October 7th, he said he will join if the Palestinians are given a state. But Hamas doesn't want that. They wanted to disrupt the process because they want a state instead of Israel, not near Israel. You misunderstood, dude. I am very optimistic. Don't misunderstand. But in order to cure the disease, we must have the right diagnosis. We must call a spade a spade. We have to tell the Palestinians, as Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. Even if you're gonna throw an emotional tantrum, facts are facts. Palestine never existed. It's the name given to the region, to the province by the Romans. There are people who support the Palestinian cause still, of course. You should pay Algeria a visit. But there are growing numbers of Arabs in the region who understand that this is a fake cause. Those who subscribe to it support a death cult. And other Arabs say, no, you don't have the right to sacrifice my own children anymore. And I say this being in contact with Lebanese and Syrians on the ground who are not afraid of showing their faces, sharing their names, and saying, we want to join the Abraham Accords. When I make a video and I tell them, would you like Damascus to look like Dubai or like Gaza? They say, Dubai, of course. All right, then reflect on the political decisions made there and the political decisions made in your countries. Look at the Palestinian Authority, look at Hamas. Where did they get their fortunes from? Yasser Arafat, the one I mentioned, was a billionaire. So people started waking up and things are shifting in the Middle East, don't get me wrong. But we still have a massive problem to deal with, but we have to deal with it with full force. People are angry, or many Arabs, they don't like it when someone introduces me as peace activist. What do you mean you're a peace activist? You support the war in Gaza? Yeah, I want to see peace in the Middle East, but I know that giving the Gazans a hug doesn't work, and convince them, like, let's move on. It doesn't work. You have to obliterate them, get rid of those who support the death cult, and then we have a chance to establish sustainable peace in the region.
but do you think we're closer or further?
We are closer. We're definitely closer, and I promise you that I know that I'm going to see peace in the Middle East in my lifetime, unless the Arabs kill me first. But very soon, you will see. Go ahead.
My question is, how did you go from being a social media activist to like being invited to all these events to give speeches?
Okay. So I'm an accidental activist just after October 7th. Why? Because I'm an angry mother. If someone does this to my child, God forbid, I would have died a long time ago. I would have went to Gaza. So being an angry mother made me an influencer, believe it or not. Prior to that, and my son is probably older than you, prior to that, my son used to say that I'm a dinosaur on social media because I didn't use it. Once I made public appearances supporting Israel, more and more people got in contact with me and invited me to speak. As simple as that. I hope that answers your question. Go ahead.
I believe, if I picked up on it correctly, you are in the process of converting to Judaism.
Correct?
What brought you to that?
Good question. So briefly, and I can tell you more in our breakout sessions. My father is Sunni from Damascus. My mom is Shia from the Bekaa Valley. I attended a French Catholic school. We had to attend religious class. And they all told us the others are lying, including the Muslims. The Shia tell you the Sunnis are wrong, the Sunnis tell you the Shia are wrong. And you conclude as a child, they're all lying. Or maybe in retrospect, if I think about it now, you don't want to take sides when you are a child. Anyway, I was an atheist all my life, and I didn't need religion. It was irrelevant to me. But when I decided to solve the Middle East problem, I went back to university to study Islamic studies, to understand from a neutral European perspective what is wrong with Muslims. And then I thought, okay, the second part of the problem are the Jews, so let's try and understand, what do they want? So I went to, during my degree, Jewish studies, I took a class with a rabbi, a Swedish rabbi, and I realized, after a few months, that all the very many coincidences that I encountered in my life, and I always thought that spirituality is beneath me. These were just coincidences, but they were too many. I just realized that these were pebbles and that Hashem was showing me the way back home. And if I was shown the light, I had to reflect on that and understand what was expected of me. So first I went to the rabbi and I told him, Shaul, so I'm Jewish, I'm going to convert, go through the technical process because I want to make aliyah. And if you'd like to be part of my journey, you're welcome. So with this spirit, I started my Giyur, a process, because a gift was bestowed upon me. And only on October 7th, I understood why. You're going to see the film, and now it's spoiled. You're told I am in the process of converting. After October 7th, those who helped me start this project on social media, the experts, told me, you need to take the Star of David off. And I wear it even before I decided to convert to Judaism. You need to take it off, and nobody can know that you're converting, because that will discredit you. The Arabs must think you're a Muslim ally. And I told them, no. The reason... Everywhere I speak, someone tells me, if you don't share, it's better, your voice remains stronger, and I disagree. I was shown the light to share the light. I do believe that I am supposed to share in order to remind the Jews that this is not my dirty secret, that being a Jew is not something to be ashamed of, that there is nothing wrong with us and everything wrong with the world, and we're gonna fix it. Because if I'm shown the light, and if you're supposed to be a light for the nations, think about the light. It's not something you can contain. It's not exclusively for you. You're supposed to be a light for nations. And the light is not something you can monopolize. It's something that's supposed to shine. This is why I share with everyone proudly that I'm converting to Judaism. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Margot. I'm from Boston, and my question is, what is something that you think Arabs in Arab Muslim countries that don't support the government and want peace in the Middle East? What is something that they could collectively, or your opinion on what they can collectively do to, what is something that steps that they can take to,
To what? To help achieve peace?
Yeah, to kind of, I don't know, either take down governments or something, because there's always...
Take down governments?
Maybe not, that's wrong phrasing, but kind of bring upon change, because I have seen things like the Arab Spring or other revolts and stuff, and they sometimes seem to work, but it's
Okay. We don't have a magic wand. Nobody has a magical solution, but you do your best and Hashem does the rest. Look at the plot twists in the Middle East. Look at the pager operation. Look at poor Nasrallah, who left us. Look at Hani, who was assassinated no less than in Tehran. Things are shifting, and many of the Arabs in Syria and in Lebanon are poor, they're suffering, but they're not dumb. What can they do? They just need to wake up. Political decisions are shifting in the region. There are powerful countries like Saudi Arabia helping emancipate moderate voices, including of imams. So an example, and these examples help because you won't forget them. After October 7th, an imam speaking at a mosque in Saudi Arabia supported Hamas, expressed his support for Hamas. He was fired. So governments can help. On our level as individuals, having the luxury of social media, we have access to information. So we no longer have an excuse to be ignorant. And we have a responsibility to roll our sleeves up and use social media because it is part of the war. This is why I use social media now. So all of you have to take a little bit of time every day and engage with people who disagree with you and explain yourselves. Claim your voices back and tell your own story. Okay, someone needs to tell me when we have 5 minutes left for what we planned. So, okay, thank you. We do have 5 minutes left now? Okay, so I'm gonna break your hearts. You can still come to my breakout sessions. And you can ask every question you want. But for now, I need a favor. Give me 1 second. So I can still talk. You know that Assad, the monster of the century, disappeared. I don't know how. Finally, his regime collapsed. The Syrians got rid of him, and that was phenomenal. Upon the fall of Assad, something the Syrians couldn't believe, there was a song that was played in every square in Syria. It's become the song of the revolution because it's an old song, it's not political, it's patriotic, but the person who sang it, and excuse me for the graphic details, was killed. Like they just did things to his head. He became an icon, the song became an icon, and upon the fall of Assad, this song was played and it united the Syrians. When I went to Jerusalem on my last speaking tour, when I was on stage, I asked the crowds if we can play the song. So we did. And I put it on my TikTok where my followers, unlike Instagram, are all Arabs. And it had millions of views. Every time I posted from Israel, from Jerusalem, from Ra'anana, from Tel Aviv, and the Arabs were so confused. They were like, they are playing our songs, the Israelis, why? Well, because they are happy for you, because Assad fell, and they're not the problem. They wish you the best. Now it's on you to contribute to make an initiative. Without going into details, the new leadership, controversial, former ISIS, former Qaeda, that's something else. But the fall of Assad is something so important, especially for Israel, because the corridor between Iran and Hezbollah, Lebanon, is closed.